G'day there and welcome to the rewrap for Tuesday. All the best bits from the Mike Hosking Breakfast on News Talk ZB in a sillier package. I am Glenn ZB. Mike Yardley with you again today, as he will be all week. And it's all about suppressing COVID now rather than stamping it out completely, isn't it? Should we stamp out most of the councils and just have a few mega councils? Somebody stamped out Facebook today, and it's still out as I record this. And pandas. Should we just give up on pandas? I think it's time to give up on pandas, isn't it? But before any of that, bye-bye zero COVID.
Recent history. Zero COVID. Jacinda Ardern basically conceded zero cases isn't really a goer.
With this outbreak and with Delta, the return to zero is incredibly difficult. And our restrictions alone are not enough to achieve it quickly. In fact, for this outbreak, it's clear that long periods of heavy restrictions has not got us to zero cases.
Yes. Now, I don't know if you were thinking perhaps you were living in a parallel universe this time yesterday, but we had the Deputy Prime Minister on, right, at just after 7. And at 11 minutes past 7 yesterday morning, Grant Robertson was still doubling down on elimination.
Elimination remains the only strategy at the moment.
Yes. In fact, he said it twice. The second time he said elimination is the only way. Then again, he did put the rider on for the moment. So that was a fast moment.
He meant hours, not days or weeks.
You cannot make this stuff up.
So if you can't eliminate it, then you just sort of try and keep a lid on it. Eliminate it instead, I think. Is that what we're doing now?
Well, finally the government has surrendered. They have given up the ghost on the illusion of elimination. They've come clean and they've switched their strategy. I think Jacinda Ardern is calling it contain and control, but it's essentially active suppression, isn't it? You can slap that name on the marquee, active suppression. Scott Morrison was absolutely right all along. He mocked our pursuit of elimination in the age of Delta as absurd, and so it has proven. The New Zealand Twitterati pilloried him, but he gets the last laugh. Jacinda Ardern's experiment has now officially bitten the dust. Her short and sharp Delta lockdown was a political fantasy. It wasn't short, it wasn't sharp, and it wasn't successful. In fact, I wonder if she's been spending far too long channeling Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's grief sequence with a rather long layover in the Department of Denial. But finally, we can move on with a few tentative crumbs thrown the way of Auckland to feed the flock and the sense of frustration. Childcare can reopen, 2 households can meet outdoors, you can go to the beach, you can go hunting for rabbits, you can sail, you can play lawn bowls in a physically distanced fashion. But that's about it for now. The noose is barely loosened, while businesses keep bleeding, keep buckling. Yes, brace for more carnage. Step 2 and 3 will make a material difference, but the big question, when? I thought it was interesting that Ashley Bloomfield was the only one who actually made any sort of numerical reference. He was saying 4 to 8 weeks away. There are no hard metrics, no vaccination milestones or case number targets to measure progress or to navigate these step changes, at least none publicly. And that's what I find so exasperating about this frantically hashed together roadmap, driven by panic and driven by polls. It's flimsy, when we surely deserve something more substantial. You wanted meat and veg, Auckland, and all they served you was 2-minute noodles. Make no mistake, this is a roadmap born out of raw political pressure, a series of intentions on the fly. Whether you are easing restrictions on your country or reopening to the world, a signposted, date-stamped roadmap is the gold standard. Just ask ScoMo.
That plan yesterday is the most confusing announcement I've ever heard. The rules are so confusing. As far as a roadmap goes, there doesn't seem to be a destination. There doesn't even seem to be a key or a scale as far as the map scenario goes. I'm sure somebody will explain it to me at some stage. I think there are a few councils around the country wanting a please explain over the people who don't want them to exist anymore.
By any measure, the government's sweeping Three Waters reform agenda has devolved into a debacle. I think its credibility is shot. The multi-million-dollar ad blitz, which had you believe you had sludge pouring out of your taps, has come to symbolise the shonkiness of this reform program. The sales job was sensationalist, demeaning and misleading. The financial assumptions that underpinned the switch to 4 merged mega entities has been widely panned. Most councils up and down the land insist the data from DIA and the figures are flawed, inflated and unreliable, and even worse, the touted benefits grossly exaggerated. There's also the matter of local government New Zealand. I think they were stitched up by Wellington and they swallowed the bait, foolishly signing up to a heads of agreement that tacitly supports an all-out takeover of council assets. LGNZ didn't even bother to engage with their member councils before signing up to this deal in July. And they now face a crisis of confidence. But back to the reform model. All of the council feedback is in, and at last count, only 6 of 67 district and city councils have indicated any desire to opt in to the reform program or any support for these 4 mega entities. The Beehive hasn't indicated any willingness to pull in the reins, despite the towering wall of opposition. Now, I don't know if Nanaia Mahuta is aloof, arrogant or autocratic. Maybe she's a mix of all three. But her defence of this reform agenda in the House has been atrocious. And she's now shifting the blame onto councils for failing to secure public support for these mega mergers, which is now prompting calls for her resignation from councillors. She's refusing to rule out the confiscation of council water assets and services, which I suspect is what she desires is done before Christmas. But that's a hell of a tall order. And ultimately, this surely is going to be the Prime Minister's call. Does Ardern really want to fry huge political capital on this ridiculous model? They should rip it up and rework it based on the feedback to find a better vehicle to drive the reforms and the promised efficiency savings.
Yeah, it should be more straightforward. It should be, let's just get rid of councils. We'll get to the water eventually. Can't we just do that? Why do we need them? I tell you what, we need Facebook, and we haven't seen it all morning. This is a disaster.
Trending now on the Mike Hosking Breakfast.
As we've mentioned this morning, it appears the world is being gripped by a social media outage. Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp have been down for almost 4 hours. No one seems to know what exactly has caused it, and it's causing some awkwardness in the media today, like this little tidbit from the BBC.
Facebook says it is aware that some people are having trouble accessing the company's apps and products. Those, of course, include Facebook itself and Instagram. This is the bit I normally tell you can reach me and the team on social media. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But in any case, thanks for watching.
So people are flocking to the Twitter, and the official Twitter account is loving it by simply tweeting, "Hello, literally everyone," and people are losing it online. It looks like Facebook will be allowed back online at step 2 of Auckland's roadmap. I'm apologising to my Wi-Fi as it's not full that my WhatsApp app, Instagram and Facebook are down. WhatsApp, Instagram and Facebook eliminated. Only Twitter made it to the second game. And another says it must be bad when Facebook comes to Twitter to announce it's not working. Well, I think that actually happens all the time, doesn't it? I think generally, it's a bit like when the Met Service, when they have a few issues, with the hackers, you just go onto the Twitter and you see Met Service, we have issues at the moment, ENS.
Apparently, this has just come into like that the
Yes.
Facebook employees can't actually even get out of the building because their security cards aren't working.
Oh my goodness.
So it's a complete meltdown.
Has someone failed to pay a bill, perhaps? Or are we talking hack? Mega hack.
That happened to me once here in the building. It wasn't that my security card wouldn't work to let me out of the building. That would induce panic. Because it's annoying when your security card doesn't let you into the building, but believe me, it's far more annoying when you can't get out of it. And no, it was a problem with, I'm lucky enough to have a car park here in the building, and the roller door that lets you out of the car park was broken and I couldn't get out. I was trapped here, trapped at work. It was not long before I was sweating, heart rate increasing, just like a panda.
Adelaide Zoo staff say the giant pandas, Wang Wang and Funi, are not expecting a cup this season after the duo once again failed to have a successful mating.
Have they tried forcing them to watch Bridgerton?
Well, this is what I find very, very concerning, Glenn. The zoo director at Adelaide, Phil Ainsley, said that staff had worked around the clock to monitor the pandas to ensure neither was hurt while they tried to mate. Excuse me?
That round-the-clock monitoring always puts me in the mood. I don't know about you.
But they're going to give it another go next year. It's a very small window of opportunity for Wang Wang and Funi. But no luck this year.
If somebody called Wang Wang can't get you pregnant, who can? But I mean, you would have heard my views on pandas before. They're disgusting things, and we should just let them go extinct. They often, the reason that they sometimes they do get pregnant, but then they absorb their own young back into their bodies. This is my fun fact that I like to keep repeating ad nauseum until it actually causes nausea. Pandas are disgusting. Let them go. I'm Glenn ZB. That was the rewrap. We'll be back with another one tomorrow, unless we go all Facebook and we can't go online.